Troubleshooting a VMware View environment. These troubleshooting nuggets are always challenging because, I don't know, by the time that the issue that you're troubleshooting makes its way into either the administrator's guide or especially into the exam, you'd think that they would have just fixed the problem as opposed to just highlighting it in the guide. So the troubleshooting task is always a difficult one to teach on because every environment is different and every environment has different situations, different configurations. It's almost as if you had sent me an email with 3 lines saying, I'm seeing a problem, can you help? So I'll do the best I can. I do want to point you very specifically to one area that if you are planning on taking the exam could be a good source of information for you for those troubleshooting steps you would use in case they get tested on for many of the different objectives. And that would be your Troubleshooting Bible, which is essentially the View Administration Guide, Chapter 16. Chapter 16 is on troubleshooting View components, and it goes through a very exhaustive look at all the different areas in a View environment where issues can occur, and just some very basic troubleshooting steps that you can identify where might things be going wrong based off of what you're seeing. Now, these don't necessarily link up directly with the exam objectives, but they do provide a number of really good starting points for helping you understand, well, okay, based off of this condition and this condition and this condition, what might this problem be related to? With that in mind, I do want to focus in on 4 little areas where we can talk about how you can gather better information that will feed into the troubleshooting process. Some of this information will be helpful for VMware if you end up contacting them for VMware support. Other information you can dig into yourself to identify, well, maybe there's more detail about the problems that you're seeing. So these 4 pieces of information here can help you. The 4th one actually down here is all about View connection server backups, which is a topic we haven't really touched on yet, but fits into the troubleshooting topic because, well, if your connection server blows up, it's good to know that you have a backup for it in case anything really goes wrong. I want to spend a minute here just focusing in on what these 4 different items are and how you might be able to use them to your advantage in your VMware View environment. I'm taking a look here at the VMware View Administrator. This is our last time together. This is our last opportunity to look at the View Administrator and to talk about it and interact with it here in the way that we have. We've actually kind of glossed over this problem desktops node for the entirety of this series. I think I might have pointed out it once back in one of the previous nuggets. But this problem desktops actually does a remarkably good job of helping you identify when there are desktops that for some reason are not responding for one reason or another. And a number of different useful reasons why that's the case. I can't talk to the agent. Someone has turned off the agent. There's a configuration or provisioning error. There's an unassigned user something going on over there. Also, whenever those desktops are actually preparing, this desktop status node here will help you identify where they are in the preparation activity. So when we're going through provisioning and customizing and waiting for the agent and those sorts of items, this will identify which of your desktops are experiencing those problems. So very high level information here, in many ways, just basic information. But what this allows you to do is drill down if you see one, for example, where an agent is unreachable, to look at those desktops and maybe figure out if there's some correlation between which desktops are unreachable and why. Commonly, for example, unreachable. Common problem is that they just haven't finished their reboot, or for some reason the vCenter environment is preventing that reboot from completing. So this is, again, the very high-level stuff. We also talked about the event database and how you can look into the events to figure out what's going on with those events in there as well. I do want to focus in on a couple of the different logging facilities that are available for you, or debugging facilities that are available. There is a lot of diagnostic information that you can collect across the entirety of your View environment. And what's interesting is that different pieces of the environment have different ways in which to collect that information. The tool that we talked about, I believe in that last nugget, called VDM admin, I think it was a couple of nuggets ago actually, is rather helpful in helping you identify and configure various settings within your View infrastructure. What it can also be handy for is for gathering diagnostic information into an easily transferable format. In fact, if you work with VMware in their technical support, they may require you to give them some sort of diagnostic, data dump to help them help you with whatever the problem is. So one in specific that I want to point you towards is VDM admin -A-help. So the -A, as you can see up here, is used for fetching or setting agent information. And very specifically, what we can see here is a data collection bundle here. This data collection bundle, using the get DCT switch, will gather up all the data that it can associated with a particular desktop or desktop group and the machine associated with that, or virtual machine associated with that desktop group that you're having a problem with. You can run this command here with an out file to a specific path to generate a zip file. And that zip file will contain as much of the diagnostic information as it can gather. So this is at the View Connection Server side. If the problem is not existing at View Connection Server, though, this issue is not going to be exposed by taking a look here with VDM admin. Sometimes those problems actually occur instead over here on the client side. Right? So user is somewhere out in the world and they can't connect. Well, when they can't connect, what do? So here the user they've logged into VMware View 5, or they've instantiated the connection here, and they click the connect button and they get this far, but for some reason they can't get any further. Well, thankfully the VMware View 5 client includes this very nice link down here in the lower left that allows your users to generate support data that you or VMware can then parse through to identify what the problem exists or what the problem is. You'll see there's some very basic information here about the client, product, the host information, the connection information that can help you with assisting that user whenever you're working with them on the phone. Or you can click the Connect Support Data button here to generate another log bundle that can be used to send that off, essentially off to VMware or to review yourself for what kind of problems are existing here inside of this connection. I've actually already generated one of these bundles here, so you can take a look at what actually gets created. In this bundle, there are two text files, one a very basic text file and the other a more full text file that identifies essentially what has the bundle looked for. What is it gathering? What data has it been trying to figure out? Okay, are there any error messages that it has found in trying to read certain areas? You can see here that there's an unable to read problem that you're seeing with this collection of this bundle. And inside of the zip file down here are the contents of what that issue is. Notice here how I'm actually using that copy of 7-zip that we installed earlier on, so we can actually look at the contents of this zip file. Inside there, you'll see information about the diagnostics, the computer configuration, any PC over IP logs, and then also the client configuration and any logs that it may see there. And I'm not going to dig into these. You can dig into these whenever you experience problems, and you'll as you get more experience in looking through them, it'll help you understand, well, where might this issue be occurring with that client. There is actually a third location where log bundles can be created. That is actually at the View Composer server, which would be back here on your vCenter server. So not necessarily here inside of vCenter, but built into the VMware View Composer bits that have been installed into this vCenter instance is a support script called svi-support.wsf. That script's going to be located here under Computer, and then the C drive, Program Files, VMware, and then VMware, not VMware, Program Files x86, VMware View Composer, and then the file is svi-support.wsf. Note, if you do actually end up running this command, you're going to run a prepend it with the C script, so C script and then svi-support.wsf. It will go ahead and generate a log bundle. That bundle can take a period of time to generate, so I've actually kept it here. This is the bundle. Again, core dumps, event logs, just support information about what's going on there with View Composer. So 3 very specific areas where you can generate these log bundles: on the connection server, on the composer server, and at the client side. There are actually, if you're not getting enough data here on your connection server, there is one way down into the start menu in all programs and then in VMware where you can adjust the log level for your View connection server. And standard disclaimers apply here. The more logging you turn on, the slower your connection server is going to go because, well, it's got to spend extra processor cycles populating that log. So with this, you can change that log level from info to debug to full mode to give you essentially more information about what's going on. VMware may actually request you to do this if you end up not getting enough data in the log. So just be aware that that actually is there. Now, there is one more feature that we want to take a look at here, and that's if everything goes wrong. If whatever configuration or problem occurs and you just need to restore from backups, it's important to recognize that you actually have backups set up in the first place. Now, VMware's approach to backups is actually kind of slick in the way that they've implemented it. If I click over here on servers and take a look at the view connection server here and choose edit, under the backup tab is where I can identify what I want that backup frequency to be. Every day, once a week, every 2 days, every half a day, maybe even every hour. Then when do I want them to occur? At midnight. How many backups do I want to keep, and what's the location for these backups? The backups, as I said, are really slick in the way that they've been implemented, because if you think about it, a view connection server has a very small amount of state, but I really want to capture what configurations I've plugged into my view connection server. I'm not really interested in backing up all the stuff. And by having a backup that actually takes this data out of whatever database-like format it may be in, and then copying that information into a text-based format, well, then this allows whatever my backup solution is to come by at the end of the night and swoop up that backup file, wherever that may be. Here's the last one here on 324. That backup file, and put it in a flat file format back onto disk or tape somewhere, so that if I need to go and restore this, well, then I can restore it by simply just restoring all the metadata back into view configuration or view connection server. Remember, view connection server, very, very easy, very simple installation. So the restore process is simply just adding all those configurations back into a restored view connection server. So pay attention to backups. Make sure that your backup solution is actually capturing the backups from this location, and be assured that, well, if everything goes bad, well, then at least you have backups that you can restore the configuration and the metadata of that view connection server right back to where it was. So really, this is what we're talking about when it comes to troubleshooting a VMware View environment. If you're taking that exam, there are obviously a number of different areas and objectives that your experience with VMware View are going to help you understand, well, when might accounts be a problem, or when might connectivity be a problem, or when might PC over IP be a problem. Throughout this throughout this series, we've spent time actually looking at a lot of these items here to identify, well, what should the correct configuration be, so that when it comes time to launch ourselves into production, well, we're not going to end up having any issues. That information will help you, along with the information in Chapter 16 of the View Administration Guide, with identifying what exactly you should review, again, if you're taking that exam. For the rest of us, our troubleshooting experience is something that we're going to develop over time, and while we won't be answering questions on an exam, we're definitely going to need to have that in case something goes south. Well, so this has been what is effectively 20 nuggets on VMware View. And once again, this is, I believe, my 14th or 15th series with CBT Nuggets, and it's always a joy to get to spend an opportunity with you, kind of sitting, looking over your shoulder, and helping you understand, working with you to identify how you can get your View environment up and running, how you can develop that learning by seeing and also by doing. If you hadn't had the opportunity yet to actually follow along, I strongly suggest reviewing this series once again with having your own virtual machine environment set up so you can see and act while you're actually viewing what I'm talking about here in this series. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you over these last 20 nuggets. Once again, this has been CBT Nuggets, mastering VMware View 5 and preparing for the VCP 510-DT exam. This is Greg Shields. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.